Good morning and welcome to our weekly men's volleyball press conference with head coach Alan Knipe. We'll go ahead and start the press conference with an opening statement from coach, and then we'll open it up to questions from the media.
Yeah, I thought just a little bit of a recap for last week. It was a big week for us growth-wise. We had obviously a lot of stuff going on during the week with guys, injuries, and guys that could play and guys that couldn't play, and all sorts of fun stuff. The week before, having a guy have surgery, so it was kind of an interesting week. We haven't had really that kind of week in a few years, but that had nothing to do really with the mindset of how we played on Thursday night at UCLA, and a lot of it had to do with how they played. They played a great one. They played a great matchup there. So I was really impressed with our guys' grit to turn around and the response they had in front of an amazing crowd on Thursday. And I think that as we dig into it more today with the guys video-wise, they'll realize how many close points there were, execution points that were on our side that match could easily have went our way. If you look statistically, we won almost every statistical area, but didn't win the match. And that's an important lesson, to learn. And if we can learn that lesson in February, it will serve us well as we go through the year. I'm really big on that there's a lot you can take from wins. You don't have to lose to get better, but we have no choice in this week that we have to take what we liked and build on it, and then take some things that we could have been better at and improve on it, which I know they will. So, but I think there was some great performances, especially on Friday night. And we'll build from that, and we'll have a great week having NJIT come in and playing back-to-back nights, which is kind of continues this prep for the Big West. And excited to play a really good team. But before we get too concerned with that, we'll see what we can focus on. There's definitely a million areas that, as a head coach, you go through in a situation like this that you want to work on, but you also know that you can't get everything in. So we'll prioritize what we think is the best for our team for this week. We'll, at the same time, water the green spots in some of the areas that we were good. But the grit, the effort, and what we showed on Thursday night for long stretches of time, if we can make sure that's the group and that's the mentality we play with, then I'm looking forward to moving forward in the year. And there's lots of meat on the bone for this team, and we'll get after it on Friday and Saturday.
Coach, how are you all able to adjust after an emotional match or emotional pair of matches like that, coming off of a loss as opposed to coming off of an emotional win over a rival such as UCLA or Penn State or Loyola?
Well, I think that any really good competitor, and I know our guys are great competitors, takes great pride in their consistency of being able to go out and compete at a high level. And when you really feel like you did it on Thursday night, I think it was you get that emotional response to shorten up your list, play harder, compete harder, which we saw on Friday night. But I think that for our guys, we don't like to hang on wins and certainly on losses very long. But it is okay to remember the feeling of Thursday night, and it's okay to remember the feeling of a couple of points here or there switches that game around on Friday night. And if we can use that properly to drive us on making sure that we squeeze out a few more points in practice this week, because that's where you squeeze out the points in the match. You squeeze them out in practice during the week, and you clean up your communication, your execution, whether it be transition or block and defense or non-set or setting. A lot of times it's the areas that don't get as many reps as first ball side out, as first ball block and defense. So that's why as the year goes on, you're able to work kind of like I said earlier, water the green spots when things are going good, but keep spending more time on the blocking sub that comes in, the serving sub comes in, what happens if you flip blockers or change middles or whatever the deal is, to try to make sure that when you do that, it's always a positive, or highly likely it's a positive, that you don't give up points in that situation. So that's my job. My job is to put these guys in a situation that we execute better each match we play, and that we certainly execute better after 20. Because that's when the games are going to be won and lost against the good teams. 25, I think both the third and the fourth set was 23 all. And we need to execute in that situation and win one of those sets, and at minimum be playing in the fifth set to decide. But that's our goal.
Coach Satiri Shapani's probably the brightest spot, at least kill-wise, for your team this past week. Where's his progression been throughout the year up to this point as a transfer?
Oh, it's tremendous. Especially, I'm so proud of him because he's been through a lot health-wise, why he sat out all last year. So it's not that, he feels great all the time. He's building that back up of what he can do in the weight room and what he has to do in the training room and how we can monitor him in the gym. But he's got an incredibly high volleyball IQ and a wonderful ability to compete. So when you put those things together, he's at a really high level already. As he gets more and more comfortable with what we're doing and how we're doing things, he won't feel like there's any guardrails on him, or maybe guardrails, but not tied down sometimes. Early in the season, I think that there was so much going through his mind of what we wanted to do. And was I happy with him? Was the team happy with what he wanted to do? Was he comfortable? So you're starting to see him really starting to relax and feel comfortable in the system, and we're getting comfortable with him on the court to the point that we want to embrace all the things that are great about him, not can make him conform to just us, because he's such a talented kid and there's so many things that he makes us better if we can let him fly a little bit, but have some parameters that it's not wild, right? So I'm super impressed with what he's doing. He's a big part of our success, and he will be for the next few years.
In addition to Soto's, your whole offense, 4 of your players had double-digit kills. What can you say about the offense and how it was pretty much clicking for the most part?
Yeah, I love where we're going offensively. We've made tremendous strides this year for lots of reasons that we've talked about the last couple of press conferences. I don't think we need to get into that. But the good thing is I think that everyone would agree that we're not even close to the team we want to be. Because to me, offense, you're talking about first ball and what we can do when the opponent serves to us, but there's transition offense, and then there's the different grades of offense, on a perfect pass, on a medium pass, on a bad pass, and we're not even close to some of the things that we think we can do offensively. We've always had the motto, and we've maybe not always been able to live up to it, or haven't always lived up to it, that our setter's job is to feel confident enough to set anybody at any time. And we have not only guys on the court right now that I know Aiden feels that about, but we have guys that are on the bench that are doing that in practice and that could come in that he feels that about. And that complements him as a setter, and it makes him feel more confident to take some chance and be able to run some tempo and run some offense to keep our front row and back row involved. And like I said, we're just starting to scratch the surface where we think we can be offensively.
And Coach, one of the things this past week that some fans found fun was watching a libero and Mason Briggs set a quick set to a middle a couple of times. Can you talk about how maybe that came up, or maybe that was worked on, and whose idea was it maybe?
Well, it's kind of like when, our outside hitters fake to hit out of the back row and set. Look, we want our guys to be highlighted athletically instead of restricted of what there's so many volleyball players that are told on a regular basis what they're not allowed to do. Our rules are pretty simple. We want to highlight the athleticism, but we don't want to be wild. So Mason's a world-class volleyball player. All right. He can do lots of things very, very well. His ability to set that is confidence, and obviously the reps that we've worked on a little bit. But the confidence to do it, obviously, in that moment. And then it's a tribute to how much work our middles are putting into being available to be ready for that situation, even with Mason. So expecting greatness from Mason. So there's lots of levels to that of how that works. It's not that we're just doing things, throwing caution to the wind. I think it was the week before against Loyola that Nathan Harlan came in and played great for us. And one of the early plays in the match on a dig, Mason set Nathan a bick in transition for a big point. So it goes into that whole mindset that will set everybody every time, and expecting greatness from your teammates. So I guess the biggest point that I would say that I would want to hear about on like a set like that about our team is how can we unleash their athleticism and not restrict it? Because when you unleash it, it builds confidence and swagger and preparation. And similar to, say, that set to Simon, it forces your hitters to constantly be prepared and stay involved, in the play. Very similar to, back in the 80s when Magic Johnson was playing for the Lakers. I don't know if it was Worthy or Cooper that talked about you learned really fast to be paying attention or you got the ball in your ear, because you didn't know who he was going to pass to or when. And it's not that we're trying to be reckless with it, but we're going to use every opportunity we have to score points.
And then this week, obviously, you were playing NJIT twice, as it's basically LB Grit versus the Jersey Grit. What makes the LB Grit so unique for newcomers that are first watching Long Beach State men's volleyball?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a great question, because I really think grit is a word for us that means lots of different things, and it certainly means different things for different teams. It's not, when I say teams, different men's volleyball teams over the years, it's not something that I define with one tagline of what it means. But it is something, if it's going really well, it's something that people that come into the pyramid can feel. You see it. It's the attitude towards the game. It's the effort throughout plays. It's the type of teammate they are. It's the focus they have and the resolve they have, whether we're up or we're down in a set or even in the match. In sports, and especially in college sports, because the difference between, I think, international volleyball or pro sports and college sports is that the margins get very thin the higher level you go. And there's a lot of equal talent out there at the highest level of any sport. And in college, by just the fact that you have freshmen and seniors, there's a lot of times there's some gaps within teams and against different teams of experience and age. And I think that grit in college sports wins out a lot more than maybe in professional sports. And you've seen this, whether it's football or basketball or a team that makes a run in March Madness or volleyball teams, where their ability to flat out compete and play hard and execute, but more importantly, have the grit to just keep coming back. I think that you have a better chance of having more success in that area at the collegiate level in any sport than maybe at some of the higher levels of sports, professional levels. So we've always felt like grit is an area that's 100% controllable. And the only thing that gets in the way is the mental side of it, of being hung up on the last play or maybe the result of the last set. And if we can get past that, we can use grit to something that we can lean on. And when we lean on it and play in that way, it makes every other part of the game easier. It makes your side out offense better, your serving better. It builds momentum. It ends point runs from the other team faster. There's only good things that come of it. So grit to us is a massive part of what we do. It always has been. I was very impressed with the grit we showed on Friday night. And when we combine that grit with a little cleaner execution, then we have something really special.
Right. Thank you, Coach.
Okay. Thank you, guys.